Hey everybody, Koricon here, and I know this is a little late for some of you, but I'm about to react to the new Zero trailer that came out today, well, 20 hours ago, so technically in the same day. And first off, I want to say happy birthday to Shah Rukh. They released this on his birthday, which is great. And for those of you that are going to be commenting that the 2.0 trailer came out, I know it just dropped while I was preparing this poster to put up, and I will be doing that right after this. So look for that reaction review to come later. But let's check out Zero. Now, the teaser that we looked at, which I got some great response, especially from Red Chilies. If you noticed my Twitter, the Red Chilies VFX and color department both retweeted it, which was amazing. But it did feel more like a visual effects test, you know, to see if they could properly get it across that they had turned Shah Rukh Khan into a dwarf. And I think it succeeded. So I'm hoping from this trailer, since it's a little over 3 minutes, that we will get some story, because like I said in that teaser review, if the story is not compelling, then people are going to get used to the fact that he's a dwarf within 20 minutes, and that part of it will kind of go away, and the story is what's going to be important. So let's check it out. I do have English subtitles, and we'll see what they got for us.
इसकी उम्र में जो लोग कुंवारे घूमते हैं ना पानी, उन्हें बारिश से डर नहीं लगता। मुझे लगता है ना आपके स्टूडेंट की एशिया में ही नहीं। झूठ बोला तुमने मुझसे। इस कोले की खादान में तुम ये हीरा छुपा बैठे हो। ये तुम्हारे मतलब की नहीं है। वो तो लग रही है हमारे मतलब की। अजी यार, हिंदी बहुत है। हम देख लेंगे इसके साथ। साथ लेना है हमें।
So they both have physical disabilities. Ah, smooth. That would be difficult with the physical contact. Yeah. Ah.
एक वही तो थी जिसकी आंखों में आंखें डाल के मैं बात बोल सकता था। वो मेरे बराबर थी, मैं उसके बराबर। अगर उसके साथ होता ना, तो जिंदगी बराबरी की करती। पर जिंदगी काटनी किसे थी? हमें तो जीनी थी।
Oh. Was that before maybe an accident that she had?
हम कभी किसी के बराबर हो सके, ये सपना भगवान ने हमारा छीन लिया था।
Or no, after, I guess. He loved her when she was disabled. She got better. You know, it's smart that they're doing a love story. Drama would work well with the character type. Huh. Well, maybe she did get disabled after the fact. Oh, that's the part they filmed in Alabama. So what is he wearing right there? I would like to know. I mean, it looks like he's got, it's, you know, money, it's currency bills around this like gold necklace, but what is the significance of that? Is it part of a festival, or, you know, what would that be? I'm just curious. So let's take it back. Now, it seemed like he met her and fell in love with her when she was disabled in the wheelchair. And then she got better. They found a cure or something like that. And she was able to be, I guess you would say, normal. And because he loved her before she was disabled, it kind of continued, that romance continued. But at the end there, she mentioned something about how, like, now we're equal, or now. So maybe she becomes disabled again and he doesn't care, or, I'm a little curious about that. But let's go through a little bit of what we saw. So it looks like he's at either an agency or a reporter's room. You know, he's kind of hanging out. I don't think he works there, but he's looking at her pictures. Maybe it's maybe it's her, I wouldn't say family, but if she's a model or a star, it's maybe her agency, something like that. And he's looking at all of her pictures. But you can see there that they had, you know, transformed him into a dwarf. Now, they want to transform his body so that he's doing the performance. But they're also using other techniques like force perspective and other things. I'm wondering if they did have a body double for him just for scenes where his face is not shown, or something like that, just so that it's a little easier to film those sequences, kind of like this. His face is not being shown. It's from the back. He doesn't turn around until the camera changes. Now, I would think because they're doing all of the body changes for every other scene that they would do it for this as well. The reason, like, he's not in the way of all of the pictures or anything else that would be in the background for other scenes is because they probably have the camera set on a programmable movement, something they can reproduce multiple times. And then they do that movement without the actors on set. That gives them a clean background that they can put in for any of the sections that are there after they turn his body into a dwarf. Because if they tried to, like, you wouldn't see some of those pictures above his head if they turned him into a dwarf without having that kind of, that shot, that clean slate shot. And that's used in a lot of movies. I mean, most notably, you know, for something like this, it would probably be like Lord of the Rings. But they didn't transform their bodies into dwarves. They just used a lot of green screen and forced perspective. With this, they're using the same kind of visual effects that they did in Fan, where they turned him, you know, his body into a kind of, I think it was like 2 inches shorter and thinner person, but they taking it to an extreme. They're going to another level to make him a dwarf. Hiding a diamond in a coal mine. You know, he sees her, he knows that she has a disability, he doesn't care. You know, he was probably a fan. Maybe she was not disabled at one point and she was a popular star, and then he was a fan of hers, or, you know, kind of fell in love with her ahead of time, but doesn't care about her disability because he has a disability, and it feels like they're on the same level in a way, because he says later on, she's the only woman I can look at in the eyes because she's in the wheelchair and things like that. She shakes a lot. I'll shake along. I think it's a little bit of a funny line, and it does quickly show that his character does not care about the disability, because he's making light of it. He's making a joke about it. And for a lot of people that are physically different, you know, I'm fat, people that are dwarves, people that shake or other things, they tend to make light of it by turning it into a joke or being the first one to make a joke. And then for people that feel uncomfortable, it makes them feel at ease. And for people that would be bullies or make fun of them, it kind of preemptively strikes what they would say and takes the sting away from it. I do it a lot for being fat. I'm sure he would do it as a dwarf, and he's kind of using the same thing with her disability just to show that he doesn't care. When they have scenes of just him and they transform his body into a dwarf, that's hard enough as it is, but I can see how they're going to do it because I've seen the behind the scenes on Fan and things like that. But when he's interacting with other props or people or animals, like here he's got the 2 pigeons in his hand, that would be a little bit more difficult because you have to have the scale of the things that are of normal size inside what they do to his body. So some of the ways that you could do that is if you're filming something at a distance, it can make something look smaller. So if they filmed the scene with just the kids in the background, and then they filmed him with a larger lens or a longer lens in a green screen element, and then did some minor adjustments to make him look more like a dwarf like here, then the pigeons would look of the proper size in comparison to his body. So I'm wondering if they did a lot of that. That would be interesting. I really want to see a behind the scenes on this. So Red Chili's VFX department, I want to know what you did there for pretty much every scene. So he's taking some selfies. I'm assuming it's for a social media account. And this is kind of showing, you know, just like a lot of teenagers or people that do a lot of selfies, it's a way of getting some positive feedback to make themselves feel a bit better about how they look. And you can tell he takes a lot of selfies because they have him showing 2 that he's doing. Of course, he's doing the fish face. I think that's more of a way of doing some social commentary on the people that do take a lot of selfies. You know, they're trying to make themselves look thinner or sexy in a way. I don't think it quite works. It just looks silly because they're doing the fish face. But I feel that's what his character is doing. Now, here you have her talking on the stage in kind of like a TED Talk style. But you have the moon and some space in the background. So I'm wondering if she's an intellectual, kind of like an astrophysicist or, you know, maybe expert on the moon. I don't know. But it seems like she's more of an intelligent person than a popular person. But later on, they kind of show her with, you know, a full, beautiful dress on, almost like a pop star. So I'm wondering what that equalization is. Maybe she was going to an event and that's why she looked that way. But it seems like she's a popular intellectual, kind of like a Stephen Hawking or Neil deGrasse Tyson, maybe even a Carl Sagan, that type character. I would be curious to find out. I want to know what it is she's talking about here. This must be in the early stages of when they met. And again, him holding the pot. Now, this would be from a different angle, and they showed a front angle before. They could have made the pot bigger so that when they changed his body size, it brings it down to a normal size. Since they're doing this kind of angle, they could still have shot it at a distance. But another thing that they used in like Lord of the Rings and things like that are larger props so that it looks normal inside the hands or on the person when they're using the forced perspective, or in this case, the visual effects to make them look smaller than they are. That's really smooth. He's trying to show that, you know, again, he doesn't care about her disability and he's being suave. So he's like, I'm just window shopping. You know, he could have just added a baby. You can tell here that he's trying to make her laugh, make light of things so that she doesn't take him too seriously, but he is still, you know, making the point of like, yeah, I do want to marry you, but not be creepy about it. Now here he's throwing money over a balcony, and it could be along the same lines of what he was wearing at the end that I was asking about. Maybe he's very wealthy and doesn't really care about money. And here, since they said she'll marry you, he could be celebrating that fact, you know, kind of like when you, in America, they hand out cigars when a baby is born. So here, again, with physical contact and interaction, that's what makes things a bit difficult. I would say that here, with what they're doing of him jumping onto his lap and into the arms of him, goes along in the same lines as somewhat of that test that they were doing in the teaser with Salma Khan and them interacting together. That they could have changed him physically into a dwarf in post, but with physical contact, that makes things a lot more difficult because his movements would need to be more extreme to compensate for his normal height. And again, her holding him back. You could have him on his knees, which would make things a little bit easier. However, with them changing his arms, you know, that's kind of what makes it difficult. But really interesting. I mean, this is impressive. I don't really I see him as a character. I'm not focusing on the visual effects part. So what they're doing that I was afraid of is that the story or the character wouldn't be compelling enough to compensate for the visual effects, and that the visual effects would be amazing, but after about 20 minutes we get used to it. Here they're showing that he has, you know, a strong character. Here in the rest of the trailers, what I mean, that he has a strong character. And so even though once you get used to the fact that he is a dwarf and the visual effects don't seem so amazing to you, then you're still compelled and want to follow the movie. But when they have a scene like this, the eye line is very important. And you're going to notice that. I would love to see whether or not there are moments where the eye line is not perfect. But what they would probably be doing is when he's in front of her, that they would have maybe a sticker on his chest or some kind of something that would point to where his eye line would be so that she can look at it. And maybe they filmed it at a different ratio. Like here, it looks like it's a 2-to-1 ratio, and maybe they filmed it at a 3:2 or something like that, and then turned him into a dwarf since he would have been taller than the aspect ratio in this scene, and then they add the aspect ratio in post. That could be something, because if you had the 2:1 aspect ratio and they filmed it this way, he would be taller than the aspect ratio. And you need that footage to be able to convert him and change him down before you make it the aspect ratio that it is. You know, scenes like this, I mean, it looks amazing of how they did the conversion with so much stuff going on in frame, especially with a lot of movement. So you have the people behind him doing a lot of movement. Now, they could have filmed that as a separate element without him in it, and then they filmed his stuff with a green screen and put it in. They would have filmed the green screen element along with the drummer and then put both of them in the scene with the background going on. Because if they did the conversion without that, they would need a clean slate behind him, or you have to recreate everything that is behind him. So I'm sure they're using a lot of green screen elements for things that are going to be around him and the foreground and what's in front of him, and then placing it into camera. But even the lighting looks great. And they either spent a lot of time on making sure the lighting angles, or they actually filmed it there on set and they converted him and did something with the background to make it fit. I like that. Why do you like me? I love fools. It's a good little snapback. See, in here that's where he said, she was the only girl I could look straight in the eye. I like the framing of that shot with the sunset in the background. You know, it adds a nice element of lighting. Plus it's framed really well with the doors and everything. I just like the color schemes. And so the coloring department, I really like what you did here. This is the scene we saw in the teaser, so it is going to be a part of the movie and not just a visual effects test, or the visual effects test that they did for the teaser worked so well that they are integrating into the movie. But it could be that the teaser is not a visual effects test and it's just stuff taken from the movie itself. So here we see her walking around looking glamorous. Now, she looks more like a pop star here than she does an intellectual. There is something odd going on with the characters. But the trailer does its job really well, because now I'm really curious to see what her dynamic is for her character. Okay, so they're in a movie theater here, and he's standing on the chair and everybody is clapping and dancing. So it makes me think that she is a film star. But again, how does that fit with the stage presence that she was doing before that looks more like a TED Talk? Now, it could be something totally different. Maybe she's doing a TED Talk about being a film star that is now disabled. That could be, I mean, you do have a lot of actors or directors that do kind of TED Talks, and the background is just something that looked good but is not really relevant to what she's speaking about. Or she could be both. She could be a astrophysicist intellectual and a film star at the same time. There have been actors in the past that have had both a intellectual kind of scholarly presence about them, where they actually wrote papers and things like that, and they were film stars. But a lot of times they choose one or the other. Now, if they do that in this movie, I would wonder if that's just too much going on with that character. And if there's too much, then it may take away from the story, because you have to do double the amount of characterization to pull that off. Or if they have the time, they may be able to do that. Yeah, there you go. Now, it's a little hard to see, but it looks like that is her in the film. So she is a film star. I'm just wondering what's going on with that TED Talk. Maybe she is doing it about a disability. I mean, I don't know if it's a TED Talk, but it looks that way. So here you have her kissing him either after or before the disability. I would think it's after, because the stuff in the beginning of the trailer really seems like it's something closer to the beginning of the film. This seems more like in the middle of the film, because I don't think, even if he was a big fan of hers, that she wouldn't be doing this if she didn't know him. So I'm thinking that she had gotten better, or a cure or something like that. Now, it could be that he is just a big fan, and this is somewhere where they met in a backflash when she was a film star before the disability. That could be, but it seems like they didn't actually fall in love, because he was like really pursuing her while she was disabled. And he does look really surprised here, so it could be before the disability, instead of having a cure and after the disability. So this could be really a backflash of maybe him telling her, I have met you before, and she doesn't remember the interaction. However, she's crying in this moment, or at least could be after. I don't know, but I'm really curious. So the trailer did its job well. I like the look of that shot. You have a lot of symmetry, a center frame. The red smoke looks really good. The building, very gold, elaborate. It's a pretty shot. A lot of good cinematography, a lot of good colors. That's another difficult shot. You have to have the red smoke behind him, which would probably be on set, and the smoke around him to make him look fuzzy. Now, it could be when they transformed him in post that they did the smoke element at the same time. And again, this could be a long lens. Here again, you have a lot of dust coming, or dust glitter. I would assume it's dust because it's being seen through the light rays that are coming in the window, but they're going around him. They're kind of interacting. You can see it on the back of his head. It could be that they're adding that dust in post, but it's cool. I'm trying to figure out how they do all these things. Now here in this scene, he's dancing around and it looks like the people behind him are also short people. So this could have been filmed, you know, as a single element, and then they just converted him to smaller instead of doing it as a green screen element. We have a little montage kind of moment in the trailer of them having fun, getting along, doing a bunch of different things. So you are going to have a falling in love moment and a falling out of love moment, which gives it a lot of, you know, a lot of character. You got to have some kind of problem between them. This looks like the moment that they get married. Now here they have the space launch, and I think this is taking place in Alabama in the United States. Probably Huntsville, which is where they have the NASA Center. I know they were filming something there, and Madhavan was at that location. I don't know if he's going to have a cameo or not. I haven't gotten like specific reports about that. But after I did my interview of Madhavan, the next day he was flying out to go to the US into LA and then eventually went here. So I know he was on set. I'm just curious to know what this has to do with the story. Maybe he went to go watch the launch. I don't know, but it seems like a random thing to kind of throw into this romance storyline. But this could kind of connect with the talk that she was giving in the beginning of the trailer with the moon and stars. It could be that she's a, you know, an astrophysicist or has something to do with space, a mathematician, or, you know, an engineer, something like that, that they could be at the launch to see the culmination of some of her research. That could be. However, again, it's kind of a lot of character to have her be an intellectual of an engineer or an astrophysicist and a film star at the same time. And I don't want that to get muddled in the storyline. It may add too much to have to keep track of. Again, I mean, the trailer is impressive. The visual effects that they were doing, I couldn't see any flaws. And I'm looking hard for flaws. I want to know what flaws there are. They're doing an amazing job. I'm glad that they have a storyline. I think a romantic storyline does make sense. It's a little easier to do. You don't have to do anything too complicated if it was like a thriller or an action film. But again, the characters look like they have a lot going on. It's going to be interesting. You'll get to, once you get used to the visual effects, then the characters and the story will pull you along. I mean, from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a good movie. I'm excited to see it. But I want to know what you guys think. Comment below and let me know. Links to all of my stuff is in the description below. Look forward to my 2.0 reaction review that I'll be doing later today. And I will see you guys on the next video.